Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Round the Nation right here. UID Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. It's Wednesday, so we got some stories. This has been a little bit of a strange week. Will continue to be a strange week, as I will not be here basically the rest of the week, because I will be in New Jersey. I will be at the Minds IRL event. Link is in the description. I will be taking part in a panel about corporate involvement in activism. So that should be fun. That should be very interesting. So make sure to get tickets. There's a link to the description. If you use the promo code Jeff, you get, well, I get basically a cut of the ticket price. So that goes to support the show, which is awesome. And so I'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh, actually, I'm leaving on Sunday. So, we'll be doing that. So that's the rest of the week. Yesterday was a day. Uh, so I'm gonna tell you guys what happened because we'll talk about this. Because it explains why I wasn't here. Got into a car accident, so that was fun. Um, so all right. So first off, I'm okay. Right. So I'm okay. Nobody was hurt. That's good. Right. So I mean, thank my lucky stars for that one. That everything's like I'm okay, the other person is okay, and all that. So that's good. So what happened is I was waiting at the stoplight, and there was a big lineup of cars. I was going to get my morning coffee, and I hear that, and it's a sound you don't forget. I hear that like a shriek, like a screech of brakes, and then bam, jolt forward, right? Now, luckily, I didn't hit another car that was in front of me. So that happens. Like the first thing I thought was, the hell was that? Right? Because I didn't know. I was like, the hell just happened? And then you know the feeling the where you like had the fight or flight. Like there's that feeling, but I'm like too calm and rational. So I'm like, hey, stuff that down. You're fine. So I kind of look around and I'm like, all right, I'm still in the middle of the road. So I need to get out of here. I need to get out of the middle of the road. And so I start moving and the car behind me starts honking at me. I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. I'm not like trying to flee the scene. I'm trying to actually get out of everybody's way. So, and there's a road right next to me that I could pull into, but it was a one way. So I'm going into the one way. So I'm like, screw it. I've already been hit. I've been in an accident. I'm just going to go and get in here anyway so I get off the main road. So I do that. And then I'm looking around, making sure that like there's nobody in the way, et cetera, that everybody's all right. Then I get out, and the first thing I notice is, for one, there's a guy that hit me. He's got his door open and everything like that, and then he's got kids in the car. So they're school age children. And so the first thing I do is go over to one of the kids and like, hey, you all right, buddy? Like, is everybody okay here? And the guy's like, yeah, they're fine. He's like, are you all right? Yeah, I said, I'm absolutely fine. Right. I just want to make sure everybody else is okay. So I look at his car, and he's got the hood that's crumpled up, and I guess that's what it's supposed to do. So, like all the front end stuff has basically fallen off, and is in the middle of the road. So that sucks. And then I look at my car. Of course, I've got a bent fender. I've got a bent hatch. So I got like $2,500 worth of damage, like disaster, right? But I could drive my car. He couldn't. So they ended up having to tow him. So after all that, and he comes up and he's like, hey, I'm sorry. He's like, I got bad brakes, and it was also a little bit wet out. So bad brakes plus wet weather. He slid right into me, which of course was the screeching, right? So he's like, hey, man, I'm sorry. I was like, you know what? It happens. Let's swap insurance information, etc. We do that. And then, he's like, hey, you might want to call the cops. I was like, all right, yeah, that's fine. So he calls his wife. I call the cops, and you know, they come and they take our statements, and the guy's like, hey, it was my fault, and the cops asking me what's going on, what happened. So I'm like, all right. So I told him the story, and he's like, were you trying to turn into here? I was like, no, 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 I wasn't trying to turn. I was waiting for the light. Well, then why were you down here? Because there was a line of cars down here. So you were trying to turn? No, I wasn't trying to turn. I was waiting to go through the light so I could go get a coffee. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, that's fun. Trying to explain that. Um, and at the end of the day, he's like, the officers determine it's not your fault. You're fine. And the other guy. So I talked to the other guy a little bit, right? And he's an Iraq veteran. Seemed like pretty nice guy. He's taking his kids to school. So I felt really bad. And so this is like the super live in me. I'm the one that got hit. And I'm like, dude, I feel bad for you. What are you gonna do for your car? Like you're gonna get what are you gonna do for transportation? And he's like, oh, don't worry about me. I'll just borrow a car from my parents or something like that until we get it all fixed up. Don't worry about that. And then his wife comes up and she's like super apologetic, and I'm like, hey, crap happens. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Everybody's okay. Whatever, right? So I get the police report, everything like that, and I go home, and that was not the worst part of my day. That was actually the better part of the experience. Then came dealing with insurance companies. Oh dear God, right? So look, luckily my insurance company seems to be decent, except for the fact that I didn't get like rental car insurance, which I didn't know was a thing. I'm leasing my car, so I didn't know. So apparently in the lease there's an option that if you get wrecked, that there's a rental car. Turns out didn't take that option, so I'm like, great. Got to figure out how I'm gonna get a rental. If they're gonna allow me to do that during the or when I can even get the thing in to get it fixed. So dealing with getting the body shop damage and all of that stuff, it sucks. It's insane. um Now look, the reason I talk about how frustrating it is though to deal with like filing insurance claims and stuff like that is, I mean, you can draw a parallel to health insurance. And so that's like on a good day, dealing with insurance companies is frustrating. Imagine if you're sick. Imagine if you're sick. Imagine if your family members are sick. They have cancer, they have something, life threatening that's going on, and you still got to deal with insurance companies figuring out what they can or cannot cover or what they will or will not cover. And again, you're all doing that while people are sick, while people are dying. I mean, again, I'm super lucky. The guy that hit me, not so lucky. So I'm like concerned about how he's doing, but also dealing with the frustration that is insurance, and damage in your car, and trying to figure out like. Thankfully, my car's drivable, so I got no problem going and getting driving out to you know uh, my flight in order to make it into New Jersey. But still, it just makes me think about these things, and it also does make me think about how fortunate I am, and that's the perspective that I try to continue to have. Um, and so, again, it's a bummer, but also it just does make you realize how lucky you are for things to like work out, at least in my perspective. So, anyway, that's my story. That's what happened yesterday. You know, it makes you think. But anyway, so now with that, that's my story. Um, let's get to some news. So what we're going to talk about today for the remainder of the show, of course, is Trump versus Fox News. The honeymoon's over. I shouldn't say the honeymoon's over. It's been over for quite some time, but it's official. Trump's calling for his voters, his viewers, his fans to basically stop watching Fox News. That's amazing. He could be the only person in America that could ever get Republicans, conservatives to stop watching Fox News. That's crazy. Then we've got, of course, Donald Trump ordering people to break the law when it comes to building the wall. So that's an amazing story. We will talk about that. Then we have the economy, a disastrous poll on the economy. We also have Representative Sean Duffy. He's leaving Congress. You're going to be shocked to find out there's a little bit of hypocrisy in why he's leaving Congress. Then we also have an excellent poll on Medicare for all. This is amazing, so you're not going to want to miss that. All right. So that's what we have here. And so let's dive into the first story. Let's talk about Trump versus Fox News. It's a great story. All right. President Trump has finally turned against Fox News totally and completely. Now, look, before, and here's the reason why I say totally and completely, because they've been feuding before. There's been some disagreements, especially with some of the hosts, Juan Williams, etc. And you also had the fact that Donald Trump still loves Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Judge Jeanine Pirro, etc. But now it has escalated to where he is calling on his basically fans to stop watching Fox News. Now, if this works, Donald Trump could be the first person to ever get Republicans to stop watching Fox News. That's amazing. All right. Anyway, so now on Wednesday, Trump went on a furious tweet storm against his favorite network in full Trumpian fashion. In a series of angry tweets, Trump went after Fox for hiring panelists that he doesn't like. Instead, the network was letting him down. Let me give you the tweets here. Just watch Fox News heavily promoting the Democrats through their DNC communications director, spewing out whatever she wanted with zero pushback by anchor Sandra Smith. Terrible, considering that Fox couldn't even land a debate. The Dems give them nothing. In all caps. Fox hires Give Hillary the Questions Donna Brazile, Juan Williams, and low-rating Shep Smith. Hopeless and clueless. Okay. Yikes. All right, now, here's the interesting thing. I don't necessarily disagree with criticizing Donna Brazile. I've done my own criticisms of Ms. Brazile, or Mrs. And so, look, for one, did she give Hillary Clinton questions when she was working as a contributor at CNN? Of course. That was a huge thing that came out during 2016. Now, it's funny how Trump points that out now as an attack. Kind of hilarious. It's almost as if he takes advantage of things that he wouldn't mind doing himself. That's interesting. But hey, look, if you want to criticize her for that, that's fine, right? But now he's criticizing the network for hiring her. I actually criticized Donna Brazile for taking a job at Fox News. Like, what's wrong with you? I don't understand. I think it's funny because Brazile is not all that liberal. And I say that because she's the establishment, right? So she's the establishment. So she gives, of course, official DNC Democratic Party talking points, which again is more centrist, is more corporate establishment. And so, but Trump thinks liberal, and you're turning Fox News into a liberal station. Wait till Trump actually meets a progressive. Oh, that's going to be fun. Now, Fox News has met a progressive. If you guys remember, Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk went on that show, and of course, he went on to debate a Republican and destroyed them. Because that's, Kyle Kulinski is a real progressive. He's not a hacky television person or a hacky DNC member. No, he's a real progressive. And so he comes on and he shreds the opposition. And it was an amazing moment. If you haven't seen it, you probably should watch it. And you know what's funny? Since then, they haven't had him back. It's almost as if conservatives fear real progressives. Not only do conservatives fear real progressives, you also have the establishment that fears real progressives. But to CNN's credit, now they are actually letting some progressives on to go and debate. You have Cenk Uygur on basically going on to Chris Cuomo's show now all the time to debate the progressive viewpoint. So credit to them on that for this, but that was a long, long, long time coming. All right, but anyway, so now what Fox News traditionally loves to do is, and this really kind of explains their hiring choices of Democrats, right? Donna Brazile, Juan Williams, etc. They love to hire establishment Democrats who generally lose to Republicans. Now, that dynamic, I think, has changed a little bit since during the Obama administration when it was really prevalent. But they still generally tend to bring on more weaker establishment Democrats who are, very corporatist, because there is a populist streak within the Republican Party against, big corporations. Now they mix in that populism with, unfortunately, a lot of racism and even some anti-Semitism. When they talk about the globalist agenda, etc. But again, you can't look at shows like, again, Tucker Carlson. He's a white supremacist, but he also does echo some populist sentiment, but weaves in that racism, and so that's kind of how they get you, which is like super dangerous. But generally, like I said before, they tend to hire, Fox News does, Democrats that will lose to Republicans. Generally, they're literally paid to lose. But what's funny is that Trump is still having a meltdown about it, even though Fox News is overwhelmingly on his side. I mean, just about on every issue. I mean, you look at Fox and Friends, right? Fox and Friends loves President Trump. They always support him. Some of the most ridiculous things. Again, you got Jeanine Pirro, you got Tucker Carlson, you got Sean Hannity. He loves those guys. What was the other guy? He loves Lou Dobbs. I think he's on Fox Business, and so great. Those are the hosts that he absolutely loves, and yet he basically has said, "You need to stop watching the network." In fact, the reason is because he demands 100% loyalty from everyone around him. He said it before. He loves it when Kim Jong-un speaks and everyone has to clap. Well, yeah, they have to clap or else they're killed. President Trump would love to live in that kind of world. I mean, how obvious does it have to be that he wants to be the beloved dictator? I mean, to go after the friendliest network imaginable is insanity. But again, we have an insane president. So now, finally, I want to give you the final quote here from Trump. He said, "The new Fox News, as if they've changed really all that much, is letting millions of great people down. We have to start looking for a new news outlet. Fox isn't working for us anymore." And who's us? They're still working for you. Again, they defend you at almost any opportunity. Britt Hume, I think, had a mild, incredibly mild criticism of the president. And Juan Williams, and he's like, "That's it. The whole of Fox News. Go find something else. Burn it down." No, here's the translation. He wants to find a network that kisses his ass 100% of the time instead of only 95% of the time. And that apparently is not Fox News anymore. Again, this shows just how incredibly weak and thin-skinned he is. Combine that with the fact that I believe that he is mentally unhinged, and you have an incredibly dangerous mix, which is why he cannot be allowed to win a second term. And so we need to nominate a progressive that will crush him. Okay. Moving on. Now, President Trump has literally directed his aides to break the law. Now, the Washington Post explains that Trump has directed aides to fast track billions of dollars worth of construction contracts, aggressively seize private land in eminent domain, and disregard environmental rules and protections, according to current and former officials involved with the project. So now this is basically all an attempt to try to build as much of his border wall or border fencing as he can before the election. And I'm going to give some direct quotes on that from actual people who were familiar with the situation. Now, he also told, since this would be wildly illegal, especially doing these land seizures, that he told subordinates that he would pardon them if any potential wrongdoing uh, should they have to break any laws to get to the barrier, or I'm sorry, to get the barriers built quickly. So now there is your law and order president telling people, just break the law. Well, just break the law so I can build my wall so that I can get reelected. Hey, look, if you get caught stealing private land, well, don't worry, I'm just going to pardon you. Wow. So now, look, a lot of this is politics, and I'm going to get to a quote on that as well. But the president, according to the Post, has told senior aides that a failure to deliver on his signature promise of 2016 would be a letdown to his supporters and an embarrassing defeat. And that, of course, is number one. Number one concern is I can't lose. I can't lose. I can't lose on an issue. Hilarious because he's lost on a lot of issues. But this is the one thing that I think he didn't really care about, but I think focused on. This is the big thing that he said, I'm going to do. I'm going to build a wall and I'm going to make Mexico pay for it. Oops. In fact, Mexico's not going to pay for it, but we're going to pay for it. But I'm still going to build a wall, even though it's going to be steel slats. MAGA. Okay. Well, anyway. So now the Post continues. They say that Trump has been holding regular White House briefings for White House meetings for progress updates and to try to hasten the pace of building the wall, according to several people involved in the discussions. So now, during these discussions, some aides brought up that his plans are illegal and unworkable. And Trump, that's when he said he made that pardon. Now, the White House has said, oh, that's just a joke. Is it, though? Is it? Again, it's not the first time he said that. Now, he's also waved off worries about contracting procedures and the use of eminent domain, saying, quote, take the land, according to officials who attended the meetings. He said, finally, that people expected him to build a wall and that it had to be done by the election. Total political calculations here in this new push. So now, again, Trump has a history of saying a lot of these things, right? Saying, oh, don't worry, I'm going to pardon you, or I'm going to pay for your legal bills. And he said that so many different times. It's kind of funny because he doesn't even pay his own bills, which we find out. Again, I've done so many stories on the fact that he has not paid his bills. He owes the city of El Paso about $500,000 for security concerns. He bankrupted Washington, D.C. When it came to his July 4th parade. He still hasn't paid them back. The guy doesn't pay his bills, man. Now, again, he also has a history of ordering people to do illegal things. It goes all the way back to when he was a private citizen, when he was running the Trump organization and building hotels. There's a story about where, there were some contractors were building something, Trump Tower, and I'm not Trump Tower, sorry, one of his buildings, I forget which one, and they were installing Braille. Now Donald Trump comes by and he's like, what the hell is that? What's Braille? Well, it's ugly. Take it down. Now, again, this is under the, I think, Americans with Disabilities Act. It says you can't, all of these buildings have to have Braille on the elevators. And he said, no, take it down. When they said, when the contractor told him, hey, man, look, I can't. It's literally illegal to take that down. It's against the law. He says, I don't care. Do it anyway. Again, he orders people to do illegal things. Not only that, but you literally have his personal lawyer and fixer for decades, Michael Cohen, in prison for doing things on behalf of Donald Trump, paying off Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. So, look, come on, man. So, no, okay. So he wants all this done, right? Now, it's important to note that Congress hasn't authorized any money for this, for a border wall. So where's he going to get it? Well, Defense Secretary Mark Esper is expected to approve a White House request to divert $3.6 billion in Pentagon funds to the barrier project in coming weeks. The funds will be pulled from Defense Department projects in 26 states, according to administration officials who, like others, spoke in the condition of anonymity to describe the matter. So let's just steal money from somewhere else in order to build the wall. But again, I thought Mexico was supposed to be paying for this. No, of course not. Come on. Everybody knows, even at the time, even MAGA guys, you knew Mexico wouldn't get to pay for the wall. Come on. So now, this article had some more interesting stuff about the actual design of the wall that I wasn't actually aware of. And I don't know, but once you hear this description of what it would be like, you would think that it would violate some sort of humanitarian rules. Apparently, the president wants the wall to be painted black, matte black, and topped with sharpened tips. Because, nothing says welcome to America and that we are a free and open society like a wall of sharpened spikes. In the meeting of the White House, on May 23rd, Trump had ordered the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Homeland Security to start painting the wall black, according to internal communications reviewed by the Washington Post. They explain that black, and the reason that they are doing this is that black absorbs more heat, makes it apparently more slippery, the paint itself, and harder to climb. And then, of course, you have the sharpened spikes at the top. Well, great. This has to break some sort of humanitarian norms. If it doesn't, I don't know, man. Those are insane demands. This is like the entrance to an evil fortress than a border wall. Now, what's funny is that he's so fixated on black spikes that administration officials have stopped trying to talk him out of the demands, and that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is preparing to instruct contractors to apply black paint or coating to all new barrier fencing. Now, that costs more money, as I mentioned. According to an internal analysis, painting or coating 175 miles of barrier would add between $70 million and $133 million in costs. Now, they're diverting about $3.6 billion right now. So if you wanted to build an entire wall and have it done by the election, and you only have so much money, well, then you wouldn't go for the flourish, right? Common sense would say, okay, no, you just build the basic as much as you can, and it should be good enough. But no, he says, paint it black, make it spiky, damn it. Well, that's going to make it so that you don't have enough money to build all of the wall. So you're literally going to have sections of black spiky wall and then nothing, and then another section of black spiky wall. Well, why don't you just walk around it? Or, I mean, you could do what I've been saying all along and just take a commercial flight over it. That's how the majority of people get here anyway. They come over, they fly over, and they overstay their visas. That's the majority of undocumented immigrants. But again, with the Trump administration, Republicans, the cruelty is the point. So they basically want to punish poor families coming in from Central America, women, children, men, and make sure that they suffer as much as possible, so and not get into the country because he's a racist. But anyway, so there's more here too. And that's, of course, the impact. Actually, no, before I get to that, political, right? Again, I go back to the point that it continues to be political, right? Now, this is a way for him to win an election. In fact, uh, Trump conceded that a wall wouldn't even work last year. This was during an immigration meeting with lawmakers, and he said that a wall or barrier is not the most effective mechanism to curb illegal immigration, recognizing it would accomplish less than a major expansion of U.S. enforcement powers and deportation authority. So there's Trump admitting last year that, hey, look, I know a wall's not actually going to work. Well, then why build it? Well, he told lawmakers that his supporters want a wall and that he has to deliver it, which explains, of course, the fevered pace of which they're working right now. Now, also, during a conference call last week, officials at U.S. Customs and Border Protection also told Army Corps of Engineers that the hundreds of miles of fencing must be completed before the next presidential election, according to administration officials with knowledge of the call who spoke on the condition of anonymity. They explained that the rush also is doing real damage to the environment. So now that's also important. The companies building the fences and access roads have been taking heavy earth moving equipment into environmentally sensitive border areas adjacent to U.S. national parks and wildlife preserves, but the administration has waived procedural safeguards and impact studies, citing national security, which, again, this is not a national security threat. These are people literally coming over with nothing. They're not an armed military force at the border. They're not militia groups. I would argue militia groups are far more dangerous than undocumented immigrants in our country. And we have FBI statistics and facts to back that up. But he says, no, it is a national security concern. And that's why, by the way, we're going to completely ignore environmental concerns, not that they gave a crap about it anyway. But they also, along with ignoring the environment, they're ignoring the cost because Donald Trump doesn't care. It's not his money and all that stuff. But now, and I've got a quote on that one from a senior administration official. But the companies, like I said, are taking heavy equipment and they're ruining these wildlife preserves. Now, this quote here says they don't care how much money is spent, whether landowners' rights are violated, whether the environment is damaged, the law, the regulations, or even prudent business practices. That is a senior administration official saying, look at what they're doing. Look at the damage. They're completely ignoring everything in order to get this political vanity wall. Now, the Customs and Border Patrol has suggested no longer writing risk assessment memos related to the fact that we don't have real estate rights. Again, they're stealing land, and how this will impact construction. And that's all, again, so the baby can fire up his racist support so he can win an election. And not only that, but build a vanity project that he can say, I built that. I built that. Well, yeah, no one cares. You built something incredibly stupid. Why not just build a stairway to nowhere? That's essentially what this project is. It's building something, it's building a solution in search of a problem. This is not going to solve the immigration issue. What we need is more immigration judges and a complete overhaul of our immigration system at large. But, Republicans, they can't handle large ideas. So, can't do that. Can't do that. No, we must build a wall because we are looking at 12th century solutions for 21st century problems. And that's unfortunately the Republican Party. But here, Donald Trump, you guys know he's a very stupid man. But he knows how to play his crowd. And again, that's why he's doing this, right? His entire career is based on telling people, certain people, what they want to hear. No exception. He doesn't care if it's complete and total lies and BS. He's going to say it anyway. But he's aware enough, even though he's stupid, he's aware enough to realize that if he doesn't actually give his people a wall, something tangible, that he, will not win re-election. And so that's why he's in a panic about this wall. That's why he's doing all this, ordering people to do illegal things, stealing people's land with eminent domain. Conservatives, MAGA guys, I thought you cared about government intrusion. Well, there are border towns that are saying we do not want Donald Trump to steal our land and build this ridiculous wall. They're telling them this. He does not care. And MAGA guys, you don't care either. You never cared about freedom. You never cared about eminent domain. You never cared about the deficit. You don't care. All you care about is hating brown people, because that's ultimately what this is about. Keeping the brown people out of America because you don't like them. For you, that's the situation. And for him, he just sees another bunch of suckers that if he placates will keep him in power, because he's scared everyone else off. That's the reality. And that's who Trump is. Okay. I'm going to take a break here. We'll come back. We have in just a minute, but we'll come back. We got more stories here. So we'll talk about Trump's economy. And then, of course, hypocritical Republicans and Medicare for all. So stay right here. Please like and share the stream. And we'll be back in a couple minutes. Around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Around the nation right here. Jeff Waldorf with you. Okay. So we have some super chats here. I want to thank Platypie. It says good morning. Good morning to you, Platypie. Good afternoon to everybody else, or good evening, wherever you're at. I know there's a lot of viewers from a lot of different places, which is super awesome. And thank you for tuning in. And Sarchek says, sorry, Jeff, the insurance companies only care about the premiums you pay them. When they have to pay out, they're the worst. Hope everything's okay. Yeah, look, everything's fine so far. Again, dealing with insurance companies sucks. But, you know, it is what it is, unfortunately. And I'm talking about car insurance. Health insurance is even worse, even more disastrous. But thank you so much for the well wishes and everything. I do appreciate it. Again, I'm still worried about the other guy. I don't know what he's gonna do. Seems like a nice enough guy. He's just trying to take his kids to school, and he didn't need that just as much as I didn't need that. So, and that's unfortunate. But hopefully, we both end up having some sort of good resolution to this. But anyway, that's how much of a lib I am. I'm worried about the guy who smacked into me. Okay. Anyway, so let's move on. Let's hit the economy. Oops, hold on a second. There we go. Now, President Trump might be in a little bit of electoral trouble. So now there's a new Quinnipiac poll out, and we're starting to see that for the first time that President Trump has been elected, a lot of voters are starting to say that the economy is not so good, and that it's actually starting to get worse. Now, let me break down the numbers here. 37% of Americans are now saying the economy is getting worse. Now, you might think it's only 37%, right? Well, if you compare that to how many people are saying it's getting better, then you start to see what direction the country is starting to go. Only 31% of respondents say the economy itself is getting better, and about 30% is saying, I don't know, I don't see any difference. Okay, so here we go. Now, for me, I've been talking about how the Trump recession is starting to take shape. Now, it's not here yet, but there are several terrible indicators that are showing that we might be heading into a recession. And so people are maybe starting to notice some of that, or they're just noticing that, hey, everything that Trump says was going to happen actually hasn't happened. And so things aren't necessarily getting better. Now, I've got more results here. When asked to rate the state of the nation's economy, 61% actually said that it's excellent or good. Okay, now you look at that number and you can say, well, Jeff, you just said that they're starting to notice that it's going badly. Then you're saying something completely contradictory. What's going on here? Okay, well, let me give you another number here. 37% still say that it's not good or poor. Now, super positive numbers. Let's be honest about that, right? Now, the reason that I bring them up is, again, because they're factual numbers. This is what people are actually saying, but also because that seems to be dropping, which is not good. These are actually the lowest excellent/good economy numbers found by Quinnipiac University since April of 2018, meaning that it is actually the hype about the Trump economy is starting to go down, even though there are still some positive numbers. Now, in the share of voters who said that President Trump's policies are hurting the nation's economy has increased to 41%. 37% say that they are helping, which I'm not sure how. If you look at the effect of President Trump and his trade war with China, at which, again, you already have some tariffs that are kicking in, and there are more that are set to kick in, which are going to make things more expensive, especially in because here's the thing. It's expensive for us because tariffs are essentially a tax on us. This is not something that's paid by China. No, this is paid by people who import things from China. Now, will that mean we're going to import less from China? That's the whole purpose of tariffs, right? Is to say, hey, look, we're going to put a tariff on this good to encourage us to shop more local, right? And to make things more locally. Now, that's what I'm saying. Tariffs can actually have a good impact when thought out correctly and implemented correctly. But the Trump administration has been putting out tariffs kind of willy-nilly, maybe in an effort to try to get China to negotiate, but China doesn't need to negotiate with us. At least that's how their perspective on it. We don't need to. In fact, what we're going to do instead is we're not only going to take away your soybean market, which was a giant market for U.S. farmers, which is why farmers in the Midwest are hurting, which again goes to hurt Donald Trump's reelection chances. So they knew exactly where to hit Trump on that. Um, but also again, it's a gigantic tax on regular people buying goods. So China, I mean, put a lot more thought into this, into the retaliatory tariffs, than Trump did on the original tariff ideas. Why? It's because he's not a smart person. He's not a smart person. He's not a very stable genius. So now Trump's approval rating on handling the economy is now under 50%. And the number of voters who give the economy good marks is trending downward. So this is disastrous as we get closer and closer to an election. Now, here's the thing, right? So President Trump, uh, for him, the economy was basically the best thing that he could point towards. He's like, look, the economy is doing great. Now, that's starting to go away. And by the way, I'm under no illusions that the economy was actually also great under President Obama. Now, in fact, the economy hasn't been great for the middle class and the working class for decades, ever since before Ronald Reagan. So, you've had years, decades of stagnation when it comes to wages, the wage versus productivity gap, the minimum wage that hasn't moved in about 10 years. But it's went from 525 to 725, which is a starvation wage. If wages have kept up with inflation, the minimum wage would be about $22 an hour. So all that stuff, that's not Donald Trump's fault. He just continues to perpetuate the cycle, just like President Obama had, in not raising the minimum wage. Now, the reason I point a finger at Obama as well is, I mean, you could say, look, no, President Obama wanted to raise the minimum wage, but he couldn't. He got basically obstructed by Mitch McConnell. That's absolutely true. But President Obama's solution is raise the wage to $10 an hour. Not great. Not great. So again, you can have a lot of criticism of presidents, Bill Clinton, even certainly Obama, Bush, and now Trump on the economy. But what Obama did is basically picked up the economy from the Great Recession from George W. Bush. That economy persisted into Trump's administration, where he took credit for it, of course, and then did the exact things that George W. Bush did that led to a recession. Well, maybe not the exact things, but let me give you a breakdown. Giant tax cuts for the rich, deregulation. And look, he worked with corporate Democrats to do banking deregulation. So that's not good either. And so we got those two things, which were major drivers of what led to a recession. And then you also have, was it another thing? Okay, let me get focused here, back onto this. Okay, because I got a little off track right there. But let me refocus here. So like I said, the economy is basically all Trump had. And it was kind of good. It was good for Wall Street. It was good for a lot of people at the top, but again, leaves out the working class, leaves out the middle class for the most part. And those tax cuts definitely added to what created the recession before. But tax cuts, deregulation. And the thing that I forgot was actually the wars. Now, Donald Trump increased military spending, but he actually didn't create any more wars. So why do we escalate military spending when there's no extra wars? That doesn't make any sense. And again, what Bush had done is actually did two unfunded wars, added to the debt, added to the deficit, brought us even closer to a recession. So all that stuff, all these factors, right, really kind of play into this. And we've seen a lot of signs that there is a recession coming. And so, for example, farmers are hurting. Now truckers are hurting. Again, trade war. You also have the bond yield that is inverted. You have the 10-year bond yield, which is, what was it? The long-term bonds, the 10-year bonds, are not worth as much as the short-term bonds. You've got the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5 year, the 10 year. And you've got those short-term bonds that are worth a lot more, which is what they call a bond yield inversion, because long-term bonds are supposed to be worth more because you're investing longer and you're investing in the long term. You're supposed to get a larger return. So that shows that the investors have no confidence in the long-term health of the economy. And so they're trying to basically cash out as soon as possible. So that's a big problem. That's a big red flag that says we are heading towards a recession. Not only that, but again, you have thousands of people that were laid off by GM just recently. You have tens of thousands that were just laid off by ATN. Not only that, but you have stagnant wages. You have consumer debt that has exploded to about $14 trillion. So you have all these different factors. And what was supposed to solve this stuff? Well, Republicans always say it's tax cuts for the rich. We need more tax cuts. Maybe a middle class tax cut. Well, that would actually sort of help, like a payroll tax cut. That would actually probably help in the short term because that actually helps the middle class. But at the same time, there's a trade-off because when you give a payroll tax cut, you also end up weakening Social Security. So that's the danger on that one. So that's what we have, right? And of course, the tax cuts gave most of the gains to the wealthy, to the corporations. That is not the basis for a strong economy. Basically, what you had during the Trump administration is an intense sugar high on Wall Street. And now, what happens, after you eat a bunch of sugar? Well, you eventually crash. I don't want it to crash. But here we are, right? Here we are. We're kind of looking at a recession that's forming. And we're saying, iceberg, dead ahead, watch out, watch out. We haven't learned our lesson. Republicans, I should say, haven't learned their lesson since the last time they crashed the economy. But again, this is what Republicans, politicians do. They take a good economy or a decent economy with a surplus, as they did, for example, Bush did after he took over for Clinton, and he turned it into a recession. Donald Trump takes what is a decent economy and turned it into a recession, or is turning it into a recession. How? Again, tax cuts for the rich, deregulation, and all that. Military spending. So that's what we have. Look, here's the thing. More military spending, more tax cuts for rich, all that stuff, more corporate welfare, basically is all the Republicans have when it comes to policy, at least economic policy. That ends up creating recessions. Trickle-down economics breaks economies. A normal system shouldn't have recessions basically built into it where the poor and the middle class suffer and the rich are able to come in and exploit it. What happens when real estate crashes? Wealthy investors go and buy it all up. That's the system that we live in right now. And Trump is again driving us towards our next recession. Look, I'm not a genius for pointing this out, obviously. But you just have to look what's going on. You have to take the blinders off. And if you can't see it, well then you don't want to see it. And as far as the politics of it, yeah, of course a crash would be devastating for his campaign. And it's going to be really hard if that happens for Trump to win a second term, as unpopular as he is now. And so, that's unfortunately what's going to happen or what might happen. And I don't want to, it's hard to speculate what would happen, what lengths he'll go if there is a recession to continue to stay in power. And that's really the scariest part of this entire thing. Okay. Sorry, that went on a little long. Now, Wisconsin Republican Sean Duffy recently announced his resignation from the House of Representatives. Now, originally it was reported that he was stepping down to spend time with his family. Now, look, normally my BS detector kind of goes off every time that happens because they either seem to have some sort of, scandal that happens to be brewing, or they want to make money to becoming a lobbyist. I'm going to spend time with my family named Goldman Sachs. Well, in this case, none of those things are true. Well, that's interesting. Um, Now, in fact, he's actually stepping down to care for his ninth child. He's got 8 kids right now. That's a lot of children. And his wife is due to give birth to their ninth fairly soon. Okay. Hey, you know what? No problem with that. In fact, that's kind of a good thing to do. You know, him stepping down, take care of it. But why would he want to do that anyway, though? Well, it turns out his unborn child is going to have a serious heart condition. Now, look, I empathize. I feel for that. Um, hey, man, like that's awful. And hopefully she gets the best care imaginable. Because again, I mean, it's a child. Of course, you got to take care of it. And of course, they deserve health care because health care is a human right. So now, again, uh, nothing wrong there. Now, here comes a little bit of hypocrisy, right? And that's, of course, how they make sure that she is going to get covered in insurance. Now, he explained to Fox News earlier that former members of Congress don't get health insurance for life, and so he says, "Well, I'm going to get Cobra, right?" So now, this is utilizing a 1985 law that allows people to stay on their employer's health plan at their own expense for up to about 18 months after leaving a job. So now he's going to tell Fox News that we pay the full boat for that so we can transition, and with the condition of the baby, we have that complete coverage. Okay. Hey, again, not a problem with that, right? But he also says, I had to look at it and make sure that with open heart surgery, we had coverage to make sure that, we could pay for that, and we have that worked out. So thank God that's not a consideration as we look to the birth. Now, again, perfectly fine, right? Hey, great. You have insurance, and she has a pre-existing condition. Well, now that's where the hypocrisy comes into play, right? Now, currently, pre-existing conditions like her heart condition are covered through Obamacare, the ACA. That the very same ACA that Representative Sean Duffy voted to kill on multiple occasions. Now, again, I want that baby covered. I want every American covered, regardless of whether you're, a newborn baby or a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, 26. I don't care. Healthcare is a human right. And by the way, I got to point out, unlike most Americans, he can actually afford Cobra coverage. Look, I tried getting that before. 100% unaffordable, insane amount of money. But he had a congressional salary. He's doing pretty well for himself. And so he can afford it. And he can afford to have something with those pre-existing conditions, protections, thanks to Obamacare. But see, here's the thing about a lot of Republicans, and I can't say all of them, but a lot of Republicans that think, hey, man, look, it doesn't affect me, then I don't care. But if it affects me, well, suddenly I care a whole lot about it. And the hypocrisy of Sean Duffy is that he is now counting on the very thing that he has spent years of his congressional career railing against. It's almost as if, hey, no, it sucks that you could have that. I don't want you to have it. But when it comes to me, well, of course, I need it. I need it. I need these protections. My baby needs these protections. But what about someone else's baby that also needs the same protections? Oh, no, we don't care about that. Now, let me give you some of his recent, well, maybe not recent votes, one of them at least. But here's some of his votes on the issue. Now, let's go back to when he was a candidate. Duffy promised to protect insurance coverage for those with pre-existing conditions. Okay, that's good, right? And also would not back any repeal of the ACA that did not include a replacement with comparable protections. Now, in reality, here's what happened. And this is according to a 2011 PolitiFact examination of Duffy's vote. Basically, he voted to repeal the ACA without a replacement. Oops. That was just after 2010, after his election. Yikes. Now, PolitiFact dubbed this a full flop. Well, no kidding. During his 8 years in Congress, Duffy also reportedly voted to repeal the ACA and undermine the pre-existing conditions protections. Now, he also voted for Trump Care in 2017, which would have made insurance coverage significantly less affordable with those with pre-existing conditions. And back in May, he voted against the Protecting Americans with Pre-Existing Conditions Act of 2019. But now, he's going to rely on those protections for his newborn daughter. Again, she deserves those protections, as does everyone else. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, look, how can you, as a person, vote against those or justify voting against those protections? Just even thinking about it, right? Even before you're in that situation and you think, no, there are just people out there that don't deserve affordable health insurance. You just don't. Or you don't deserve health care, period. Well, but wait a minute. I mean, that's a horrible position to take. Why would you ever believe that? What could harden your heart so much to where you believe that healthcare isn't a human right, unless, of course, you are personally impacted? I'll never understand these people. I just never understand these people. This is why I say that these politicians have no core values except for, hey, what's in it for me? It's selfishness, man. This is why you can't trust these elected officials, a lot of these Republicans, on healthcare or basically any other issue. Because in reality, they turned out to be complete and utter hypocrites of the highest order. Okay. So let's get some good news, right? Progressive ideas are winning. Now, there's a new poll out that found that a majority of Democrats will not support a candidate who believes in a middle ground approach to healthcare. Now, this is amazing. This is a new Politico Morning Consult tracking poll. And what it did is that it showed increasing support for Medicare for all among all Democratic voters. But what it also showed is that more Democrats are now saying that they would be willing to support a candidate that backs Medicare for all. Now, there are only two of those people here. For one, Bernie Sanders. We know 100% that he will support Medicare for all, and he will not take any sort of middle ground. A little squishier on the issue is Elizabeth Warren, who says, yes, I will support Medicare for all, but again, she might take other options. So again, she's a little squishier on it than Bernie Sanders, and so Bernie Sanders is probably the best one on this issue. So now, here's the numbers. In January, 57% of Democrats said they would be more likely to vote for a candidate who backs Medicare for all over expanding the ACA. And that, of course, right now is the dichotomy, right? So here you have two candidates that say, oh, no, let's do Medicare for all. That's our preferred system. We have one candidate that basically has Medicare for all in name only. That's Kamala Harris. And the rest are saying, oh, let's just fix the ACA and maybe give a public option. Oh, okay. So now the people who support basically doing Medicare for all over expanding the ACA has risen from 57% to 65%. Only 13% of Democratic primary voters said they'd be less likely to support a candidate who backs Medicare for all. That's John Delaney, essentially, and a couple of his fans. No, seriously, though. That 13%, why don't you just go to the Republican Party already? I mean, what's wrong with you? Medicare for all. If you're a Democrat that doesn't believe that healthcare should be universal, should be a human right. What what are you here for? Seriously. But anyway, so now basically that shows that you have people like Biden and other centrist candidates that have the unpopular opinion in the Democratic Party. Now, the survey suggests a level of support for single payer health care that could take some sting out of Republican plans to make Medicare for All a 4-letter word so they can wield it against Democrats up and down the ballot in 2020, according to Politico. Here's Politico actually saying something true. But hey, look, Republicans don't have a plan on healthcare. Their plan was basically, I don't know, kick 30 million people off health insurance and then make it more expensive and make it even better for corporations. That's their healthcare plan. Progressives, the Democratic Party, should absolutely adopt Medicare for all. And I think pretty much the Democratic voters have already as the superior position to run on. But you only have two Democrats, or I'm sorry, two candidates, because as you know, Donut Twitter loves to point out, Bernie's not a Democrat. Nobody cares. Only two candidates that are really for Medicare for all, for the most part. And so, where's the rest of the party in this issue? They definitely do not reflect the voters. So now, great news, right? Because this shows that progressive ideas are popular, and that Democratic voters are saying no to the middle ground approach. They're saying that they will not support a candidate that doesn't support Medicare for all. That's amazing. Now, here's the timing on this, which is interesting, but you know, not a correlation, causation, or whatever. Okay, so now the survey comes just hours after Biden released an ad that used his family's history of loss to attack Medicare for all. So Biden releases this ad that says, "Oh, we should not tear Obamacare up and start over. Healthcare is very personal for me." So that continues with the BS lie that, you know, that Medicare for all is basically starting over. No, we already have Medicare. Bernie Sanders' plan expands it over 4 years. That's what it does. So it's already in place for people 65 or older. And then it starts basically expanding and reducing in age. Now, again, there's one important thing. Children can automatically opt in, right? So they would be immediately covered as well. And then over 4 years, it generally expands as well as what it covers, and then bans duplicative coverage. That's that lie that, oh no, you're going to tear up Obamacare and then start over. It's just complete and total nonsense. We heard it back in 2016. We heard it back from Hillary Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, and the establishment. Complete and total fabrication. No, Bernie's Medicare for all, as I said, it again expands immediately, and it would cover everyone. Now, Biden's plan, they looked at his, and it would cover an estimated 97% of Americans. Now, look, you could say, oh, 97%, that's pretty good. Not good enough. You still have 10 million people that would not be covered by health insurance. Now, again, country of 300 million people. You could say, and a lot of these centrists do, that's good enough, man. 97, what do you want to do? Go to 100%? Yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. Damn right we do. 100%, because healthcare is a human right. And besides, this is interesting too. Let me throw this out. Matt Brunig of the People's Policy Project, that's a think tank, said Biden's plan would result in the deaths of around 125,000 people over the first 10 years by leaving out that 3% of the U.S. population. Now, look, is it better than what we have right now? Yeah. Is it what we should settle for? No. In fact, in Brunig's words, he said, quote, "Needless to say, this is not acceptable." I agree. And he said, no Democrat should be running on a health plan that does not provide universal coverage. I mean, think of how backwards we are in this country. When you compare us to all the other countries basically in the world, even our northern neighbors in Canada have figured this one out. We're the only ones who haven't. And it's about time we have truly universal health care. Look, I want it. And 65% of Americans, they say we want it. So, or at least we want to choose a candidate that supports Medicare for all over someone who only wants to fix the ACA. There's a massive majority of Americans that want this system. So, look, now's the time. Now's the time. Biden cannot be the nominee. We cannot accept half measures. We cannot accept middle ground. We have to vote for a progressive in the primary. I'm in favor of Bernie Sanders. Why? Because I think he's the only one that is really going to fight for the change that we need. And so, this is the perfect time to make our choice in the primary. So let's get out there, let's do it, and let's make sure that every person in America, man, woman, and child, has healthcare as a human right. Okay. Excuse me. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. I will be out the rest of the week. So I will be back after Labor Day. So I think that's next Tuesday. So we'll see you on the 3rd. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys later.